Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am here in rainy, misty Escazú, Costa Rica on Sunday, October 12th in the year 2025. And the weather here is definitely unusual. I mean, October generally is a rainy month. It's the rainiest of the rainy season where I live anyway. If you go to the Caribbean side, however, it's particularly beautiful right now. But it's been rainy and raining all weekend and chilly. So right now, as I sit here and record this lovely podcast, I am wearing a cashmere sweater. Not that cold, but enough because I keep my windows open and stuff. So anyway, we are now completely free of the eclipse season. And I know I've talked about this ad infinitum, but I think it really packed a punch. And last Monday, almost a week ago, we had that full moon in Aries. And I did not feel that the full moon really shook everything out until later in the week. I felt like the experience of the full moon took a few days to really sort of get through its phase, and then I felt like, okay, now we're past all of this. And it was a little tricky. It was a little tricky for that first day, for the first couple days. Afterwards, I think, and I was like, wow, what's going on here? Because it doesn't feel like it's really just over and gone, It doesn't, normally that full moon comes and it's like whoosh, gone. Everything it just blows out. The smoke blows away, the dust blows away, and we're free. But I really felt like maybe it took until Wednesday with that Venus-Jupiter sextile, and even into Thursday, it's been complicated. So I think I finally started to feel normal again on Thursday, and so I wonder how everyone else is faring during this. But the thing is that now we're in a different phase. It's always something, right? So now we're in a different phase because we are moving into the direct station of Pluto, which is tomorrow. Now, tomorrow seems to be the big day of the week, and a lot is happening tomorrow, and then a little bit on Tuesday, and then I really feel like this is where the biggest energy is. This week is tomorrow. It's when Pluto goes direct. And why do I say that? Because it is the only real big stuff that is big movement in the moment. The rest of what's happening, which I'm going to describe, of course, is typical for this time of year with the sun and the moon and Venus and all what they're doing. But what Pluto is doing is it's going direct at 1 degree Aquarius and change. It will be at 10:54 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. And so that's about 8:54 p.m. my time. And so Pluto going direct is something that happens only once a year, and it does the retrograde dance, just like we hear Mercury retrograde. Well, this is Pluto retrograde, and all the planets from Mercury on out do the retrograde dance. And so Pluto went to about 3 degrees earlier in the year, turned around, I think, in May, and then moved backward until tomorrow. And then it will start to sort of wobble and then move forward. So if you have anything at 1 degree Aquarius, 1 degree Leo, 1 degree Scorpio, or 1 degree of Taurus, you are going to feel this the most. That is the early part of the sign. So say you're born, early Taurus, you're going to get this feeling. You're going to get this sense of retrograde. If you have anything at 1 degree Aquarius in your chart, it doesn't have to be the sun. It could be Mars. It could be Venus. It could be anything. Saturn. You will feel this Pluto station moving forward. And so also, if you have anything at 16 degrees of cardinal, that would be Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, that means that you are going to feel this rumble as well. And 16 degrees cardinal is where we are in a semi-square. So you're gonna feel that little bit of tweak of energy, a little bit of an ouch, a little bit of a stress. And that feeling will come from the station of Pluto. But we're all going to feel it anyway, so it doesn't even matter almost where you have a planet, because Pluto is moving forward and it is headed towards the next chapter of Aquarius for itself, which it will go to about 5 degrees and change next year and then turn around again. So it's slowly, step by step, moving through Aquarius. Now, if you have a planet like I do at around 4 or 5 degrees Aquarius, you are going to immediately notice that this is headed for you. It is headed for you. So you are going to feel this station and go, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to take on this Pluto. I'm ready to empower myself with this Pluto. And that's the way you have to see it. You have to see this as a point of empowerment. When a planet stations direct, especially a big planet like Pluto, where it is, a long time in retrograde, and it's coming out from the underworld to give us all the news of what it did and solved, and where it wants to have a breakthrough, or where it's going to provide you new information that came from the underworld. It's going to come out with news. And so there'll probably be news in the newspaper. There's always news in the newspaper, but there'll probably be some big movement of energy and conversation with Pluto going direct. And then in your own life, wherever Aquarius is, wherever you have 1 degree Aquarius, this is going to show up as, some shifts and changes. And so we're looking at what information Pluto has for us, where it spent these months since May. What did it resolve? What did it cough up out of the underworld? What did it dig up? What did it unconsciously discover? And what was it coming out with? What does it have to say from its adventures in the underworld, adventures in consciousness? What does it have to say? So this is very interesting. What information does it have for us as it goes forward? And I would hope that you all out there will have a realization, an epiphany, a breakthrough, some new awareness of what you can accomplish now, or what you have accomplished in these months. Like, hey, I did this. I did all of that. Wow, I can really move forward now. Or what you are sweeping out of where the cobwebs are going. What are you sweeping out of that underworld? Like, we're opening the door, Pluto is coming out of the underworld, and we're sweeping the cobwebs out of the underworld. And while we're doing that, like, the stardust opens and we get to see what's new for us, what fresh energy awaits us. Sometimes, it is the underworld. It's like coming out of the basement, and you're like, open the basement door and you're like, I haven't looked at this in months. Oi, we really need to do some cleaning up in here, and we have to release what energy has been lurking in the basement all these months. So sometimes it's, oh dear, I didn't realize that. Well, but it's still an epiphany, it's like, well, I didn't realize that, but maybe this is going to advance my life in some way. And that's exactly what we want to see when Pluto goes forward. We want to see an advancement in our life. We want it because Pluto is moving forward. It's advancing. It's no longer going in backwards motion for a long time. So, okay, in the meantime, other things are happening tomorrow. And one of those things is that the planet Venus is moving into the sign of Libra at 5:19 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Now, Libra is one of Venus's favorite signs. Venus loves Libra. She loves beauty and aesthetic and art and serenity and peace. And she's saying, hey, I'm happy to be moving out of Virgo, where she's loyal and hardworking, but not at her happiest, not at her best, and moving into the next sign that is one of her best. So enjoy this time with Venus going into Libra, because after this, she goes into Scorpio, again, not one of her favorite signs. And so it's kind of interesting how that happens, where she goes into Virgo, not terribly happy about being in Virgo, but does the job, goes into Libra where she loves, does all her beautiful, fancy, aesthetic artwork, creativity, and then goes into Scorpio and becomes the underworld goddess. And then, we don't see her in a sign she doesn't want to be in for a while, okay, until she goes into Aries. So what we're looking at is now Venus shining in one of her best moments, going into Libra. And as soon as she gets into Libra, that's 5:19 p.m., right? So 4 hours later at 9:16 p.m., she's going to oppose Neptune. Now remember that Neptune is at 0 degrees Aries and is retrograde, so it's going backwards, and next week will enter Pisces again. And then it will finish its job in Pisces for the next 165 years, and then eventually next year in February going back into Aries for good. But Venus is touching the cusp of this, beginning of the zodiac as she opposes Neptune from Libra. Now, she's been opposing Saturn, and it's been a little tricky because she's been opposing Saturn, who's in late Pisces, which is where Neptune's going next week. And Venus came into opposition with Saturn yesterday, fairly early in the day. And then she was squaring the moon, or the moon was squaring her later that night. So the moon was involved in this T-square with Venus and Saturn. And so last evening, she got involved, Venus, with Saturn and the moon, and it was not exactly the best expression of the goddess energy. It was a little bit of toil and hard work, and it was a little complicated between this T-square that was happening most of yesterday with Venus was opposing Saturn, and then the moon kind of came in between the two of them and was navigating the challenge. Venus and the moon, okay, the goddesses might bicker a little bit, or be a little sharp with each other, but Saturn's involved. So that was a lot of maybe self-criticism, maybe not cutting yourself some slack, maybe really being hard on yourself, judgmental of yourself and others. This could easily have been part of yesterday for you. And I definitely felt that it wasn't all sorts of cheery energy. It definitely had a heaviness to it. Yesterday had a heaviness to it, and it felt a little sharp. I also have to note that Venus, Moon, Saturn, all in a T-square, could have brought a sense of loss, and we lost Diane Keaton yesterday, which was a complete surprise to me, and I was really sad to hear of her passing because she was always one of my favorites, especially when I was younger, and she was in Woody Allen movies, and I loved her. Her style, her essence, and that was definitely a loss. The Venus, Moon, Saturn was a loss of a woman, and we don't always see that alignment so much. That could have happened and we didn't necessarily experience something like that, but a loss like that. But it was definitely, a loss for culture, and a lot of people have, been reminiscing about her. So, I was sad to hear that. But anyway, Venus is moving into Libra, and when it touches Neptune, it's going to really give us that sense of ethereal energy and ethereal creativity and inspiration. So if you are so inspired to do something creative, if you are looking for some creative juices to flow, tomorrow's a great day for that. And it is an opposition. So if you're in a kerfuffle in one of your relationships with people, and maybe someone doesn't understand you, maybe you're trying to communicate something and somebody doesn't understand you, or perhaps you are involved in a triangle, which Neptune can be as well. It's like there's deception involved, and that's a harder thing than misunderstandings. It's definitely more involved if there's deception, which Neptune rules. So if you're seeing some deception, or where you've been deceived in your relationships, just maybe this is an uncovering of that, especially with Pluto going direct. Maybe you will feel like you are having information revealed to you about one of your relationships, maybe deception comes into the light. That could be a very likely situation under tomorrow's astrology. But Venus is then going to move on, and Venus is going to connect with the other outer planets on Tuesday, the 14th. So Venus is going to make a grand trine in air with Uranus and Pluto. And that's pretty exciting because we don't see this very often. Now that Uranus and Pluto, who are very big powerhouses when they get together, because there's so much about transformation, so much about liberation and revolution, and especially with Pluto in Uranus's sign, this is going to be a very interesting dynamic as we go forward, as I've mentioned before, with Pluto and Uranus in a trine to one another over this next time period. And Venus is now stepping into that. So this is really interesting. And if you are someone that has relationships with Venus trine Uranus or Venus trine Pluto, you're going to feel this very strongly. Maybe you have a trine to Venus, from Venus to Uranus and Pluto, like you're one of those 1960s people that has Uranus and Pluto conjunct, and then you have a trine from Venus. I have an opposition, so I expect to feel a little something as well. So I think that this is an enlightening experience in relationships. It can shed a lot of light on your associations with people, on your financial situation, because remember, Venus is still about money, even though she's like in love, especially when she's in Libra, but she can be about money, the love of money. So when Venus gets involved with Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, all three outer planets within 24 hours of each other, this is a lot of Venus energy. This is Venus talking to all the outer planets. This is a real deep experience of what the goddess energy can do for us, what she can present to us, what we can use that energy for. Now, this is deep creativity. So if you want to get creative with a project or with any work you're doing, or just your regular artistic talents, this is a great time to explore all of that. It's great for exploration because the door is open. This to me does not feel like a big, awful kerfuffle in the realm of Venus touching the outer planets. Yeah, it's an opposition with Neptune, but if you're careful and you're doing the right things in your life, you probably won't feel like you are being taken for granted, or there is miscommunications, or there's deception. And it can be that what we're looking at is the next level of love, or the Venus principle in each of our lives. So, whenever she's touching the outer planets, she starts to embrace something deeper, something more profound. And maybe, you're ready to take your relationship to the next level. Maybe you're going to have a deep conversation with your partner. Maybe you are going to have a deep relationship with the next level of your own creativity. Maybe you're just going to go deeper and recognize your gifts, your talents, your abilities that you are nurturing in the creative sense. So that could be all of these things. And, and it could just be a pleasant association as well. You could be visiting with friends. You could be going out for a day trip. You could be on vacation right now. Anything that's a beautiful experience with Venus in Libra, and then she's making nice talks with Uranus and Pluto, it's an opportunity to go deep and next level. So I would highly recommend that. Use this energy consciously. Use your awareness about it. Use your creative ideas and go deeper in this week. And this isn't just, well, that's it, she's moved on after Tuesday. No, she's doing this and it's going to hang in the air for a few days. You're going to feel that for a few days because astrology doesn't happen, boom, and then it's over. Like anything else, it may feel like we have an event that does that, but really, she's in a position to go deep with the creative process. So Venus will trine Uranus from Libra to Gemini at 10:10 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday morning, the 14th. And then she will trine Pluto from Libra to Aquarius at 7:45 p.m. that night, Eastern Time. So there's a good amount of hours. It's like the whole day, the whole work day, that you can use this energy and explore in your life the creativity and the values. Venus is also values. It's what we value. It's how we value things. And maybe we need to do a little work with what we value. And maybe we need to let go of things that are no longer valuable to us. The trine from Venus to Uranus and Pluto could make it very easy for that release to happen, to flow out of our lives. You know what? I don't need this anymore. And so this is something you want to pay attention to. I think it's really important that one planet is talking to all three outer planets. And also tomorrow, Monday, the moon is going to be in Cancer and it's going to conjunct Jupiter. Well, that's a blessing. And that is at 7:49 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a few hours before Pluto goes direct. It's just a blessing in the home, in the family, in your emotional connections. So yeah, I think that this could actually be a very positive experience. Venus moving into her own sign, Moon and Jupiter together, and then Venus talking to Neptune, Pluto going direct. This could be really positive. And so for each of us individually, I don't know what's going on in the world. The world is always, the unknown factor, the wild card in all of these direct stations of outer planets. So let's just say something might happen in the world, but for us personally, let's focus. Venus is a personal planet. Let's focus on the good and the possibilities, the infinite realm of possibilities, because let's face it, in the unknown realm, there are infinite possibilities. So when we start getting into planets like Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, we start going out into the realm of the unknown. I think of them as so far out and so unpredictable, especially Uranus, that the realm of all possibilities can touch us under this Venus transit. So this is very important. These next couple of days, pay attention. And then there is the Sun in Libra. So now we're going to have Venus and the Sun in Libra. And Venus will only be an early part of Libra, but the Sun has now been moving through it for a few weeks, and it will square Jupiter in Cancer late Pacific time, 10:43 p.m., but early Friday morning Eastern time, 1:43 a.m. So this is nice. This is the relationship of the Sun, the vitality, what gets us up in the day, what makes us move forward in the day, our life force, squaring Jupiter. Now, it is a square, it's a challenge, but it's also, I feel, a very positive aspect. So touching Jupiter like that, and Jupiter is in its exaltation, it's great. It could really be an opening of expansion, of, again, more infinite possibilities. It could be an expansion into something that we decide earlier in the week when all that other astrology is happening. But when we get into the Sun and Jupiter, the only caution I would say is having high expectations or not being able to control our overindulgences. So you don't want to spend too much. You don't want to allow yourself to eat too much, or these things are really very positive when you think about it. The Sun and Jupiter is always a positive experience when they're together. So just be aware of that. And again, use the energy to do something positive, And my teacher always used to say he thought it was positive to have all the planets moving forward. And so when a planet like Pluto would station and move direct, he would say, I think it's good. It's a good thing. And even if other things are happening the same day astrologically, it was always going to be better when things moved forward. There is a good amount of introspection when we have a retrograde Pluto, right, for all those months. But now we're opening up. We're opening up. And I see all of this as an opening this week. I am pleased to say that we are moving into something more open. all this good Venus energy, all this Sun Jupiter. Pluto's moving forward. Venus is in her own sign. This is very positive. So I would expect that some good things could happen this week, and we should take maybe a couple of risks with Sun Jupiter square. It's good to step out, be seen, be heard, and hopefully, create some positive movement and changes in each of our lives. After all, that's what we're trying to do here. We want big, hopeful dreams to come true, right? Especially with Jupiter, right? At the end of the week, next Sunday, which is the beginning of next week, Mercury and Mars will meet at the end of the day, very end of the day, Pacific time, in the sign of Scorpio. And they're sort of mid-Scorpio right now, and they are getting ready to meet up. And it will be 11:52 p.m. Pacific time Sunday night, and therefore 2:52 a.m. Eastern time Monday the 20th. And that's not until next week. But I can tell you that Mercury and Mars together are really a forceful duo when they are in Scorpio. And so we have big intentions, and we set strong intentions, and we want to really get our way. Maybe a little stubborn in the fixed sign, but really get our way, make our difference, create something that is burning and passion in our soul. Okay, if we're feeling that burn to create something powerful and passionate, or speak strong words. So I always have to say, whenever we've got something like Mercury and Mars together in a powerful sign like Scorpio, please think before you speak. Please do not be impulsive, because that's what Mars does. It gets impulsive, and it's like, who cares what they think of me? I'm just going to tell them off, or, and it's not the energy you want to use that for. You don't want to take that energy and turn it into something a little nasty and a little grating and tough and all that. Use it to be resilient. Use it to be strong. Use it to get great ideas, passionate ideas, right? That's where we want to take that energy. And they are not entirely together right now, but they are very close. They are close because they are, like, Mercury's at 9 Scorpio right now, and Mars is at 14. So that's a conjunction, but they won't get to be exact until a week from now. Okay. But in the meantime, we do have some water energy happening, which we weren't getting lately. We weren't getting a whole lot of water. It's a lot of air, and we do have a lot of air coming. And water energy is flowing and intuitive, so stay with your intuition. Right now we've got the moon in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer, Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, and Saturn in Pisces. So that's 5 planets in water. Okay? And then we've got Neptune in fire, and we've got Pluto and Uranus in air, and Venus about to leave Earth and go into air. So when we go into the week ahead, it's Venus with air, and then really nothing in Earth, because the sun's in Libra, and we're not going to see Earth, energy. We're going to get the moon in Virgo this week, and that'll be our Earth for the week. But we are really looking at a lot of water and air, and that's emotions and words, emotions and thoughts, thinking and emotions. So please mind your words, think about your words, and feel and intuit before you shoot words at people. Okay? Step back, get connected. The moon is going to be in Libra with Venus next week. So really, the moon will enter Libra on Saturday, the 18th, or early Sunday a.m., 12:01 a.m. Sunday of next week when we meet again on this podcast. The moon will go into Libra, and then that moon will then make the same passage that Venus is going to make in those first 2 days of this week. The moon is going to oppose Neptune on Sunday. It will trine Uranus. It will trine Pluto. and then it's going to conjunct Venus. So what's going to happen is one goddess, Venus, is going to have this interaction with the three outer planets. And she's going to go on her merry way. And then the moon, the other goddess, is going to follow her a few days later and say, I had this experience with Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. And hey, Venus, let's talk about your experience and my experience. And they're going to do that next Sunday afternoon, Eastern Time, 2:20 p.m. So watch this. Look at how you're feeling in your relationships and your emotions and things earlier this week, and then contrast it, compare it to next Sunday when the moon follows that same path. And then the moon and the Venus will meet, and they will have a conversation, and they will discuss all emotional experiences that they had. Meanwhile, the sun, Jupiter and Chiron are moving into a square. They're not exact yet, but the sun, once it squares Jupiter, is then going to oppose Chiron Friday night at 7:40 p.m. So this is going to be maybe an opening to understand our wounds a little better, an opening to really heal ourselves. And so this dynamic between Sun and Jupiter will then include Chiron when we get into Friday. So Sun Jupiter is going to be on Thursday, and as I said, and then we're going to have this dynamic with Chiron on Friday. So there's a T-square happening with Sun, Jupiter, Chiron, opening our eyes and our awareness to how we can heal our wounds and what wounds we would like to really move away from. What story do we want to heal and stop telling? I feel like more and more that we are given a story. Everybody's given a story in their life, and everybody has a story. And for the most part, we have to overcome our story. And so I think this Sun, Jupiter, Chiron is one of those opportunities to overcome our story, because we can't live that story, the childhood story, the early life stories, and live them the rest of our lives. We have to move beyond them, and some people are very good at doing that, and some people have traumas and things. We all have a different story, a different reaction to it, a different experience with it. But I feel like we have to really move beyond our story, and get above and beyond it, and do the things we need to do to get over them. Like I always say, we can't just live. We have to work through our stuff. And if we've got a story, a big story, if it's a powerful story, it's going to power us through to across the river of change to get past that. And we won't have to contend with that story and the remnants of that story anymore. So let's use the Sun, Jupiter, Chiron to get past the story, and Venus to use the creativity to get past our story. And in the meantime, if you're interested in having a session with me, you can join me by clicking book now on my profile in Instagram. So it's the Golden Astrologer on Instagram. You can click book now, and that will give you a window to book a session with me, whether it's astrology, whether it's Reiki, whether it's expansion mentoring. But also you can go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, and click on book online, and that gives you a bigger screen, first of all, to look at and see my offerings. And I would love it if you joined me in session for astrology, for Reiki, and also if you wanted to explore expansion mentoring, then you can contact me, and we can have a conversation about what that looks like. 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I wish you the most beautiful week, the most beautiful Venusian week, and let's meet on the other side of it on this podcast again, The Golden Astrologer, on Sunday, and we'll see what happens in this week ahead, where there is no more eclipse energy at all, not even a lunation kicking out the eclipses. Have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for listening. Blessings to everyone.